All right, so after we've gone ahead and filled out the rest of our relative frequency, relative dominance, and importance value tables, we can go ahead and start making the figures that you're going to need for your forest lab report. And just a quick side note, I've included this table for the importance value figure because if you read the directions, it says to only select the 5 most interesting tree species and make a figure with those 5 tree species, not all of them. And so what I've done here is I've just pulled out the 5 that I find the most interesting, and it's the same data that's included in this larger importance value table. It's just it just includes those 5 that are the most interesting. But okay, let's go ahead and get started with the relative frequency and the relative dominance plots. These are going to be plots that are 100% stacked column plots. And it's really easy to make these figures in Excel as long as you have the data in this table format. And the way that you do that is you just select all of the data in your table, including the titles, and you go to Insert, Recommended Charts. We'll go to All Charts. We'll make sure that column is selected. And then the third option in is this 100% stacked column option. So go ahead and select that. And then it gives you 2 options from there. We'll go with the option on the right that includes the plots along the x-axis. So make sure you select that one and hit OK. Okay, so these default figures that Excel makes are kind of an eyesore. They include some things that we don't necessarily want or need, and they exclude other things that we do want. So we'll get started on formatting this figure to make it look presentable. And once we've formatted this one way, we can just copy and paste it and select and tell Excel to just look at the relative dominance table. And that way we don't have to go through the formatting again twice. It's just a quick way, it's a easy way to make multiple figures of the same formatting. So let's go ahead and get started. We can get started by just selecting this chart title and hitting the delete button. We also don't need these horizontal lines, these little light gray horizontal lines. So we'll just select one of them. It'll highlight all of them, and then we'll hit delete. Let's start moving our legend to be on the right-hand side of the plot. So just click inside the legend area and then right-click inside the legend area. We'll go to Format Legends and select Right. And then now let's start formatting our x-axis. So that's this axis here. You can see that, throughout this figure so far, the font size is pretty small. It's a font size of like 9. And so we're going to want to increase that to a font size 12. And we're also going to want to make sure that the font color is black. And currently, the default for some reason is this dark gray color. So we'll change that. We're going to add tick marks. We'll also change the color of this X axis here. Currently, it's this light gray line. And we'll add an axis line for the y-axis. For some reason, Excel doesn't put one in by default. But let's get started on it. So let's just select inside the x-axis here. Let's go ahead and make the font size larger and the correct font color. And we'll do that by selecting the Home tab. We'll go to this drop down, select size 12. And we'll make sure that the color is, instead of being this dark gray, we'll make it black. Next, we'll change the the x-axis line color. And to do that, we'll go over here to the right-hand side and select this paint bucket. We'll go to line, solid line, and make sure that it's black. And then we'll add the tick marks. So we'll go back to the axis options, scroll down to tick marks, and the major type will be outside. And we'll follow this similar procedure for the y-axis. So begin by just clicking on the y-axis. We'll change the font size to 12, font color to black. We'll add the axis line going to this paint bucket, solid line, make sure it's black, and it is. Next, we'll add the tick marks by going back to axis options, tick marks, major, outside. And now let's make our font sizes and colors for our legend. We'll make that match the X and Y axis. So just select inside the legends, go to font size, 12, and font color, black. Now we're getting pretty close to how we want it. The last few things we want to do is we want to include a line around the data and exclude this little light gray line around the whole figure. And so let's do that. We'll select inside the chart area. We'll go to border, no line. And then let's add the line around the data. So we'll have to select inside the plot area. Border here will be solid line. Make sure it's black, and it is. And so that gets rid of the line around our figure, but adds the line around the data. And then the last thing that we need to do for this relative frequency figure is to add the y-axis label. And so you can do that a couple of ways. If you select the chart, you can, and this plus button shows up, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You can go to axis titles, primary vertical, and that brings up the axis title. However, if that plus button doesn't come up, you can select inside the chart area, go to chart tools, design, and then all the way over on the left, there's a drop-down menu. You can go to axis titles, primary vertical. So let's go ahead and change the title to be relative frequency. And we'll triple click inside of the vertical axis title to highlight everything. And we'll go to change the font size to be size 12. And we'll make the font color black. All right, so that's how you make the relative frequency plot. We'll do the same thing for the relative dominance, except now that we've gone ahead and done all the formatting up front, we can now just copy and paste this and then tell Excel to look somewhere else for the data. And so the way that you do this is you click inside the relative frequency chart area, you hit Control-C, then you just select somewhere outside of the chart, of the relative frequency chart area, and you paste by going Control-V. And so that just recreated the relative frequency figure. But now, since we have this second figure still selected, we can change where Excel is looking for the data. And so that will be this blue chart, this blue table, part of the table for the relative frequency. We'll select it and we'll drag it down to match the relative dominance. And that'll automatically repopulate the relative dominance figure here. We would just need to, instead of going through all that formatting again, just need to reformat, just retitle the y-axis to be relative dominance. And then for our importance value figure, we can do something very similar, although it's not going to be a 100% stacked column plot, and I'll show you how to change that. But first, let's let's copy this relative dominance by selecting inside the chart area, hitting Control-C, selecting outside of the chart area, hitting pasting, doing Control-V. And we can now change, again, like we did earlier, we can change Excel. We can tell Excel where to start looking for the data in a different place. Now here we're only looking at 5 of the tree species instead of all of them, so we're going to need to trim this extra white space out. And the way you can do that is if you go to the bottom right corner of the selected area. Press your mouse in and then just drag it up, and it'll automatically repopulate. It'll automatically reformat your legend and repopulate it with the correct data. But for this importance value figure, we're not going to be using a 100% stacked column plot. Instead, we're going to just use a regular column plot. And the way that you change that is you make sure that you select inside the chart area. You go to Chart Tools, Design, and then you can go to Change Chart Type. And currently, we're still selected for the 100% stacked column plot, which is not what we want anymore. Instead, we want just the regular clustered column, which is the first option in the columns. And we want to make sure that our plot numbers are still on the x-axis, so that'll be this one on the left. And we just hit OK. And now you have a plot that is following the directions for your forest lab report. The one last thing that I would suggest doing here is we don't need this extra 0 value. This is just sort of a nitpicky thing, but you can change that real quickly and easily by just selecting your y-axis, right-clicking on it, go to Format Axis. You'll scroll down to Number, and you'll just change the decimal places from 2 to 1. All right, and that's how you make the 3 figures that you need for your forest lab report.